Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Brandon. I am a freelance portrait photographer based out of New York City, and today we're talking all about photo shoot locations. We're gonna be talking about all my little tips and tricks for how to find good locations, why they're important for us as photographers to get quality images, but also how you can transform your own space or your apartment or your house to be your own photo shoot location. I'm currently filming in my living room right now. I thought transforming the backdrop would be on theme for this video. It's literally just some fabric from Amazon and a plant, and it's just giving some life, giving a little bit of change to just like a white wall I would normally film on. First, we're gonna cover my #1 hack for finding outdoor locations. Like I said, I live in New York City, and although it can seem like the city can just offer everything and more in terms of locations, I feel like a lot of the inspiration I've been saving lately is photos that include backdrops on the beach or in a forest with really tall grass. And there's definitely beaches here in the city, but I feel like it's pretty hard to find quality beach, first of all, and then also getting photos in a public location like a beach without having people in the background. But I am pretty proud of myself because I just did 2 shoots recently outside of the city. One was on Long Island with a model named JL. I loved how the photos came out. And then the other was a little bit outside the city, upstate New York, with a model named Montana. And I actually vlogged that whole shoot. So if you missed that video after this one, go ahead and over there and give that a watch. I was super happy with the locations, the photos. And for finding both of these locations, I used an app. This is not sponsored, but it's genuinely helped me so much with finding different locations that I normally would never come across. And it's called AllTrails. It's meant for hikers and people to find different trails and hikes for them to walk on. But I've loved it recently, especially with the warmer weather and wanting to explore outside the city, because you can input different filters. So if you're wanting to see a beach or a waterfall, you just put that in and then it will only show you trails with those certain things on it. You can also see how people have rated the trail and also the difficulty, which I feel like the difficulty is pretty essential to me, because if I'm going out there with a model or a makeup artist or other photographer friends, we don't want anything that's super hard to walk on or explore because we have a lot of stuff with us. It needs to be a pretty easy trail. We really don't want to be like scaling a mountain. We need it to be fairly easy. It might be with the like paid version, but I know that it also can show you different markers that are on the trail. So if there's a specific like bridge or waterfall, you can kind of zoom out and see exactly where that is on the trail. So if the hike is like 5 miles, but you only want to see one specific point and shoot there, you can find out exactly where it is. You also can see a ton of photos from real people that use the app, so you can get a really realistic view of what the trail actually looks like during different times of the seasons and stuff. I feel like if you're using like Apple Maps or something, it shows you like 1 or 2 photos and you can't really get a good idea of what's on the trail, what it's all about, without scouting it out personally beforehand. Some of these trails that I'm looking at are like hours away, so that's not really realistic for me. I want to know kind of, exactly what's going on every step of the way. I will say if you're doing a shoot for like a bigger client or something, look into, of course, like permits and if you're allowed to take photos there. Some of these parks are like state parks and you don't want to get into any trouble. You also want to be mindful of like runners and different hikers that are actually using the trail not for a shoot. But I feel like the way that I'm talking about it, I'm more so relating this to like a test shoot with a model or a friend, where it's just like a few of you and you're just kind of exploring and taking photos along the way. And even with like some of these trails having thousands and thousands of photos, you might still want to go there and check it out if you have a free day before the shoot. It's definitely always more helpful to see things in person. It's just not always, realistic. Moving on is another site I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about before. I'm always recommending it to friends in real life, and of course you guys here on my channel. It's Peerspace, and this is my absolute favorite way to rent more so indoor locations like studios and different apartments, mainly just because it's so easy. Just like AllTrails, there's a bunch of different filters for you to apply. So if you're looking for something with maybe a green screen or like a white cyc wall or different backdrops, you can find literally whatever you need. I personally use it for photo shoots, obviously, but you can also use it for video shoots or different events or parties. And you can be in complete control of the space as long as you're communicating with the host, and also what date and time you want to book it for. I feel like I've literally booked like over 100 spaces on there. I'm not kidding. I just love to get a bunch of variety within my images, and I love trying out new ones. You can bring like snacks, you can usually play music, and the vibes are always just amazing. And it's perfect if you want to do a photo shoot in the colder months, but you want to be, indoors or maybe it's raining. I've seen spaces as cheap as like $20 to $30 an hour, but they can also go into like the hundreds per hour depending on how big the space is. I also know that a lot of the bigger spaces have minimums, so you can't just book it for like an hour or two if that's something that the host has listed. You can always try to like communicate with them beforehand, but usually they're pretty like hard on that. I've seen spaces that I really wanted to book, but they're like an 8 to 10 hour minimum, and then the price is just so insane. So maybe one day, but I opt for usually like 3 to 4 hours. I feel like is a good shoot time for me. It definitely does start to add up too, because there's usually a cleaning fee, and then there's also a lot of add-ons usually with different spaces that the host may offer. Sometimes they have like different backdrop colors you can pay for, or like a fog machine, different tripods and lighting equipment. I also have seen a bunch of different spaces offer a literal like videographer to be there on site with you to like help shoot. It feels a little bit kind of like Airbnb, but for studios. But the good thing is you can leave reviews, and you can also look at other people's reviews. So I always do that before booking out a space, because people can just be a little problematic with that, you know, like not showing up on time for the slot you booked it for, or things being broken. You can just run into a lot when it's a space that other people use as well. None of these things I'm talking about are sponsored, but I do have a link for you if you've never tried Peerspace and want to. You can get $50 off your first booking. I'm pretty positive anyone who makes an account on Peerspace can also share this link with other people. Why not try it out? I'll leave it below. Also, what I'll do maybe is link my favorite New York City studios down below that you guys can try out maybe if you live here as well. I feel like there's like 3 or 4 that I use all the time, and the hosts are literally amazing human beings, and I think they should get all the bookings, so I'll leave those below as well. All right, next tip isn't a physical website like AllTrails or Peerspace, but it's something that you can do on your own, and it relates to a comment that I just got on a video, so I thought we'll help them out. So they said, my problem as a beginner photographer is always that I worry if I go out with a model to shoot in the city, I won't find good backgrounds. It makes me frustrated and I don't look confident in front of the model. Can you advise me on this? How can I overcome this fear? So my advice for you and anyone maybe dealing with this same issue is go location scouting beforehand. I always feel like it's super important to be prepared for photo shoots, and that doesn't always mean just, you know, charging your camera, clearing your memory card. It also relates to styling and also finding a location, but it doesn't have to be super hard at all. So if you have a shoot coming up and maybe want to shoot within a city or your area that you live in, be on the lookout for potential locations and backdrops before your photo shoot. You don't even really have to like carve out time from your day. You can just be maybe going to grab a coffee with a friend or something and just keep your eyes peeled for different locations. And when you see something that maybe catches your eye, take a picture of it, pin it on your maps, and also keep note of the time of day in which you saw the backdrop and where the light was maybe hitting it. I think obviously a really fun part about photography is the unexpected moments, but I've always found that with walking into shoots, a big part of me feeling confident and getting photos that I really want is just being prepped, and location scouting is just a part of that preparation process, really. I have a shoot this upcoming weekend, and the other day I saw a really cool industrial looking wall, so all I did was snap a photo really quick as I'm walking. I barely even stopped, pinned it on my phone, and then just kept in mind again what time of day it was, how the light was looking on there, just because if you go at like a different time of day, it could look completely different based on what the lighting is looking like. Moving on, now we're talking about, if you feel creative enough, making a photo location out of basically anywhere. And I'm not talking about having an f-stop of 1.2, which also could be a tip on its own, because with the blurry background, it really doesn't even matter what the location looks like. It only really matters what subject you're shooting and how the lighting is looking. But the amount of shoots that I've done in my bedroom and my apartment are literally endless, and with some of them you would literally never know. With the right kind of lighting, you can take a really boring, just plain white wall and make it super dramatic and colorful. With a little prop styling, you can just transform your room into a whole set, really. Of course, you need a little bit of space, but also at the same time, realistically, whatever you're capturing is just within the frame. Like if I zoomed out on this backdrop, you would be appalled because it just, other than this frame, it does not look good. So simply just focus on what's gonna be in the frame, and whatever is outside of it, who cares? Because that's not in the photo and it doesn't really matter. Last tip, this one is something I actually don't really use personally as much, but I can see how it can be super helpful, and that is Google Earth. I mean, you can quite literally put yourself anywhere in the world virtually in like a 3D looking space. And I think it could be especially helpful if you're traveling outside of your country and you don't have the time or resources to walk from street to street and location scout for yourself. I feel like for me, I just prefer to obviously be there in person to view the space, or if not, I'm using something like Peerspace or AllTrails where I'm looking at other photos from people that were there recently, and I can see how the grass is looking and like the beach is looking, and I can also keep in mind the lighting and the time of day. But Google Earth, especially if you're trying to like map out a certain route to take while maybe you're walking with your model from spot to spot, can be super, super helpful. But yeah, that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed these tips and tricks surrounding how to find some locations, but also don't discount that you can also just do it yourself from the comfort of your own home. If you guys have any super helpful tips or tricks for how to find a good location, or also any good locations near a city or town that you recommend, leave them below. I'm sure they're gonna help some other people out. I think that's everything. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Wait, I also need to show you what it's looking like outside of this backdrop because it's not cute. See what I mean? This is it. Okay, I'll see you guys later.